Thanks, everyone. And again, welcome to today's session of Cities on the Frontline. I'm Nadine Bourbar, Climate Resilience Programs Manager at Resilient Cities Network, and I will be your host for today. We're here to talk about something that's becoming increasingly important for cities and their future resilience, how circular economies can help small businesses grow and become more resilient. But for those of you joining us for the first time, Cities on the Frontline is a virtual speaker series that focuses on solutions for cities. This series started in 2020 as a partnership between the Resilient Cities Network and the World Bank's group Cities Resilience Program. So it's all about sharing knowledge, ideas for a better world. So welcome to the session. And we're very pleased that today we're bringing you today's session in partnership with Visa Government Solutions. So you might be here because you're working in circular economy, or you heard about it, or you want to learn more about it. Either way, you're in the right place. In today's session, we'll explore how traditional take, make, dispose model is shifting to a more sustainable approach, the circular economy. The approach focuses on reusing, repairing, reselling products instead of extracting more and more resources from our planet. So it's about creating value from what we already have. But why is this important for cities and resilience in general? Right now, only 8.6% of the global economy is circular. This means there's a huge opportunity for change, especially in cities. We'll also take a look at the fashion industry, one of the most carbon-intensive industries in the world, responsible for about 10% of the global carbon emissions. And circular practices like e-commerce are starting to make a big impact here. We'll see cases like Milan, a global fashion hub, leading the way by embracing circularity. The city is using circular strategies to reshape its fashion industry and create a more inclusive and resilient communities. So yes, cities play a key role in this transformation. They are where policies, innovation, and communities come together to rethink how we use our resources. And also small businesses are essential because we look at them as the engines for this shift, because they have the innovation, they're flexible, and they also have the local knowledge. But in order for them to succeed, they need support to adopt circular models. So today we'll talk about how cities and small businesses can work together to build circular economies and drive resilience, and how digital policies and digital payments in specific and community networks can help small businesses not just to survive, but also to thrive, and how we can make sure that this transition is fair and inclusive. So today we will be hearing from the best about this. We are very pleased to have amazing speakers with us today. We will have Serena Pelagallo, a cohesion policy expert in urban economy, fashion and design directorate at the city of Milan, who will share with us how Milan is putting circularity into practice. And we're also very pleased to have with us Tara Shallal, a project manager at Visa's Social Impact and Sustainability team in Europe, who will also explain to us how Visa is helping small, medium-sized businesses to grow sustainability through digital payments. One last comment before we start. We will have two presentations today, and then we will save the last part of this session for questions. So I will encourage you all to leave your questions in the Q&A box in the Zoom chat, so we can come back to these questions towards the end of the session. And also, please keep introducing yourself now in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from and why do you think circular economy is very important for your city. So let's jump right into it. Let's kick off the discussion, and I will turn to our speakers today, and I would like to start with Serena. So Serena, if you could share a little bit with us about Milan's climate action plan for circular economy, and if you can maybe tell us a little bit how Milan is leading some pilot projects to regenerate and localize economies in Milan.
Totally happy to be. I have a presentation here, just you. I share my screen. Okay, Here we are. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting me today. My name is Serena Pelagallo, and I work for the Municipality of Milan, especially in the Urban Economy, Fashion and Design department. And in my presentation, I will be outlining the action plan we have for a urban circular economy in textile, fashion, design, and consumer goods, and some first initiatives put in place by the city, and a couple of relevant pilot projects that we are supporting. I think before diving into the details of the plan, I think it's useful to tell you what the department is responsible for and what its objectives and references paradigm are. In particular, the department promotes inclusive and sustainable economic development, intervening in various areas that are circular economy, social and proximity economy, fashion and design, and startup and innovation spaces. And the policies and interventions contribute to the creation of the 15-minute cities, on the one hand, and on the other, they contribute to the air quality improvement objectives that are defined in the Area and Climate Plan. Perhaps everyone knows about the 15-minute cities because it's a concept, a worldwide concept, but it refers to a urban planning model where residents can access most of daily needs within 15 minutes walk or bike from their homes. And about the Area and Climate Plan, in 2022, the municipality approved a strategic plan for reducing air pollution in order to protect health and the environment. And it's a systemic tool with integrated actions aimed at developing and strengthening adaptation, mitigation, and resilience strategies for our cities, while pursuing equity and well-being of citizens. And in particular, our department works to tackle the risk of increasing inequalities and improve the quality of life and social cohesion in the neighborhood, especially promoting socioeconomic revitalization of the neighborhood, job creation for residents and vulnerable people, new sustainable services for community, and protection of local economy and urban environment. And now let us look our travel to go to define the plan. So let's now look what led us to the creation of the plan, which we will part of a broader circular economy plan that the municipality is working on. In the old linear model, as you can see, cities import products and consumer goods and export waste. In contrast, in a circular city, every phase of product's life cycle is an opportunity to design, produce, consume differently, and starting from what is already present locally. And cities now have the opportunity to enhance their role of enablers for the circular transition, fostering synergies among various local actors, valorizing the depository treasure of materials present in the city, reducing the consumption of raw materials and energy, and at the same time, creating new job and business opportunities. And based on these principles, several cities in Europe and around the world have developed plans and programs dedicated to circular economy. In specific, our goal is to keep goods and products in use for as long as possible and preserve their value. So the city, from a place to consumption to a mine of unused resources. And we started mapping the existing circular experiences in Milan and also in other European cities and over the world. And from the analysis of the practices, we defined the three main areas of activities That are the 3 R's of our plan, that are reduce the use of materials, energy, and the production of unsold waste and scrap, reuse product as much as possible and extend their life cycle, and recover materials, unsold and end-of-life products. And these activities take place downstream of production processes that in general are outside of the city limits, and before products and waste are collected and enter the waste management supply chain. So it's a very restricted areas, very focused on urban economy, and could be very restricted, thinking in comparison with the big chain, with the big fashion chain or big fashion brands. But it's a part that is very important also on behavior of consumers, because we have citizens and we can engage the urban economy and shops and so on, and the citizens in this change of behavior that is fundamental to arrive to change for the transition to circular economy. And each of these macro areas was divided into opportunity areas. That means that new businesses models can be developed, new circular businesses can be created, new jobs can be generated, and or inclusion pathways can be created for also for vulnerable individuals. And the 9 areas of opportunity are eco-design, producing small batches, that is in the city, reinvent used or unsold products with a different function or with a higher perceived quality. And there are also rent products as services, or repair and regenerate products that are still usable, or a new model of selling, buying, and exchange, like swapping, second hands, and all these kind of activities. And the last R could be divided in collect and live products and make them available to producers, or treat leftovers and unsold goods to enable their reuse in new production, or transform unused goods in new materials. And circular economy, we say always, that means together. It's impossible to have circular economy alone. It's a life cycle, it's a cycle interesting many actors. So cannot be achieved alone. And it was necessary for us to build networks, alliances, exchanges and synergies, even among actors of different scale. Small shops, small SMEs in the city, micro SMEs, and important brands. For this reason, the action plan is a collaborative tool building on circular experiences already active in city. And the objectives, as you can see here, are mapping and engaging experiences of urban circular economy, validate and share an impact measurement system that is very important to see what are the results of our activities, and support the emergence and growth of circular enterprises and startups, fostering symbiosis and agreements between actors of different scales, and remove obstacles to the development of the urban circular economy. And through a listening and consultation campaign with businesses and stakeholders, we identified 9 enabling areas in which the municipality will work on till 2030, together with the Milanese ecosystem. And these are the starting point for developing projects, securing resources, building new alliances, and can be further integrated with other key themes and needs and priorities that will emerge by 2030. And at the moment, we have 3 main lines of activities that are already underway. We are working with the Politecnico and Bocconi University for developing a tool to measure the results and impacts generated by activities related to the repair, recovery, and reuse of products. For the period 2024-2027, the municipality has launched a series of funding calls for businesses, social enterprises, third sector organizations within the framework of the proximity economy program. And through the program, the municipality will be able to finance the creation and consolidation of circular economy initiatives at urban scale in Milan, ensuring that circular economy services become increasingly widespread in local neighborhoods. And the last one of our main initiatives is a catalog divided in 4 sections that is open to companies, innovative startups, no-profit organizations, but also research centers, freelancers. And we have 4 sections that are circular space and services, circular designer and producer, circular community and platform, and research, training, and consultancy. And this is a way to give visibility to circular initiatives active in Milan, to foster new projects and collaboration, B2B and B2C, also for citizens, as we said before. And my last slide is about 2 pilot projects, because within the catalog, we are also collecting pilot projects. That means projects that are more ideas or experimentational activities. And here are 2 examples that we are supporting, we think are important for the city, relevant for the city. One is Reload. That is an experimental solution to give new life to unsold garments that also create job opportunities for vulnerable people while engaging and empowering young people. And the other one, just another example, is Zip, and the project offers new skills in repair, tailor, and digital engagement, and originates from real needs of Milanese tailoring workshops, and addresses for a regional demand of fashion professionals that we know will be in these next years. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, we are here.
Thank you so much, Serena. Yeah, we will come back to the questions in a bit. So yes, everybody, if you have any questions for Serena, you can leave them in the Q&A box for now, and we can pick them up in a bit. But thank you so much, Serena. That was very insightful, learning about all these projects and how you did them in a lot of collaboration. Yeah, one hand, don't clap. So it's really great to see these synergies coming together for the city and the local community as well. And with this, I would like to turn the floor to Tara, who will share with us how Visa is also empowering the small, medium-sized businesses through its digital solutions. So Tara, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nadine, and thank you to Resilient Cities as well for the opportunity. Really appreciate it. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, great. Thank you again. Great. So as mentioned before, my name is Tara Shallal. I'm on the social impact and sustainability team at Visa. And our goal as a team is really to drive our strategy in Europe across different areas, including circularity, so our mission around sustainability, which we'll be talking about, of course, a little bit more today, as well as across other areas such as financial education, and really focusing on our communities of need, such as women, young people, refugees, and of course, SMEs. And for us, when we talk about resilience and helping to drive that resilience, we see that cities and towns are really at the center of those 4 key ingredients for economic vitality. So specifically, people and skills, sustainability, so all things related to circularity in this case, and businesses environment. So I'll walk you through a little bit more about what I mean there. So a little bit of legal jargon here, it's just a bit of confidentiality here. But for those of you who don't know Visa, other than sort of our name, we are, contrary to what most people believe, we are not a bank, but we're in fact a global payments technology company. We essentially kind of connect different actors and organizations together to sort of enable digital payments, and we help to sort of facilitate that transaction between individuals, consumers, merchants, financial institutions, and governments. We're operating on such a large scale. So we are, of course, around into over 200 countries and territories, moving money across the world. And with that sort of large representation and responsibility, that also means that we are kind of at the heart of what we do, really purpose-driven, wanting to make sure that we uplift everyone everywhere to ultimately be the best way to pay and be paid. So that's also kind of a core of what we're doing. And in terms of sort of that money movement, making sure that we're also sort of being kinder to people and planet at the same time. And what does Visa do in this space? I think a lot of the questions perhaps may have arisen as, you know, in terms of how we are as a payment company. And essentially what we're working to do is make circularity something that is a more secure, seamless, and desirable experience, both for individuals and businesses. And for us, that ultimately means that acceleration, as what Nadine was describing of that, you know, make waste to something that is more circular. So that's ultimately what we are looking to do in terms of making it easier for people to choose circularity and to choose re-commerce. And when I say re-commerce more specifically, this is sort of the space that Visa is playing, particularly because we're not necessarily making anything, but as mentioned, through our large network, we're able to sort of help actors and move money from across and really focus on the commercial side of the business. And we want to kind of empower these behaviors as well for people to sort of choose and make more sustainable choices. And of course, you know, enable those habits as well too. We operate in these 6 R's, as we call them. So resale, repair, rental, refill, return, and redistribute in terms of our support and what we offer. And again, kind of using our role to really ultimately enable and accelerate that transition for businesses as well too, is key to our success. So just a snapshot of the future of circularity and re-commerce being kind of the future of commerce as well. And when we're looking at, you know, cities and resilience, specifically for SMEs, and we're talking about upskilling, it's also ultimately about future proofing. And we see that, you know, the numbers are very clear that this is sort of the future in terms of circularity, that the circular economy is ultimately going to be more dominant by 2030, which is just around the corner. So how can we help businesses ultimately to prepare themselves for this transition? How can we help to increase demand as well too? There's obviously also a very large economic opportunity, as we've discussed as well, of $4.5 trillion in additional output by 2030. So there is this interest, obviously, beyond just SMBs. We've seen governments also kind of getting involved in the piece of this pie, which I think is also key in terms of sort of the opportunities that this presents as well. And we're also seeing things like consumers being more interested also in kind of adopting this as they're getting to know more about the circular economy, and some of these activities that have been around for a very long time are starting to kind of come back into fashion a little bit. Things like the cost of living crisis being one of the key elements of that as well, is sort of increasing this demand. So 2 in 5 people are really seeking for that, for brands to really be able to kind of offer this as well. We're also seeing that there is an interest for young consumers who are more motivated in this space to want to sort of adopt this. So these are all things that businesses and small businesses are, you know, keen and potentially tapping into to really understand the value of what's coming next and to really prepare themselves and be more resilient in the future here. So this is a bit of a snapshot in terms of from an SMB perspective and why SMBs are so critical to this conversation. They are, in Europe specifically, 99% of businesses are SMBs. So if you're thinking about the coffee shop down the street, if you're thinking about kind of the repair shop, that's what the majority of the businesses that we are sort of within our ecosystem, but then obviously beyond, which is key then, you know, if we're putting them ahead, making sure that they're sort of helping to develop local economies as well. And this is why the upskilling piece is also super important. Also, we've seen that SMBs are, while there's this push for regulation, are perhaps finding it a little bit more difficult to really understand what that means and what that means for them. And so that knowledge gap is definitely, you know, there, and we see as an opportunity to support and help in providing resources and providing knowledge for businesses specifically. And then we also see that 83% of SMBs prioritize sustainability. And there's very much that connection in wanting to be more sustainable and perhaps struggling in the way that they are reporting the impact. So how they can kind of best do that to ultimately lead to more consumption. And as we know, a city is a place of consumption, as Serena mentioned. So how we can kind of enable that and ultimately, you know, basically improve on that. We've also seen that re-commerce is becoming obviously more of an appetite, specifically in Europe, and how there is that adoption in terms of activities with over 50% of businesses that we had seen a turnover, sorry, so 50% of turnover happening to improve from a local perspective and have that local impact, but perhaps are feeling unprepared for those goals and not perhaps able to sort of reach those targets. So we're seeing overall a lot of interest and intention, but perhaps a little bit of a gap there in action, which that intent to action gap has also led us to really understand what are the demands from the consumer side, because again, without supporting, you can't sort of have SMBs without consumers involved in the conversation. And so we've sort of taken it upon ourselves to ultimately sort of help to bridge that gap as well. And this is where re-commerce and consumers kind of come into play. And one of the ways in which Visa is working in this space is through our Behavioral Insights Lab. So we're testing real life solutions. We're working with partners who are experts in the space. So Ellen MacArthur Foundation is one of our partners who are really sort of leading the charge from a circularity perspective. We're also working with MindWorks, specifically from a behavioral insights expertise, and really trying to kind of understand what is at that obstacle of, you know, choosing and basically opting for more circular behaviors. What is sort of getting in the way? 84% of consumers say they want to be more sustainable, but only 27% are actually actively doing it. So through our ecosystem, how can we kind of bring in these partners to really be able to bridge this gap? So we're can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you broke for a sec.
So I'll go back maybe about the Behavioral Insights Lab.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So running you through this, hopefully it's not a repetition, but essentially the Behavioral Insights Lab, we're working with our partners across different spaces, whether it be with Ellen MacArthur Foundation on circularity and really bridging that knowledge, as well as MindWorks, who is a behavioral insights expert, to really kind of understand where there is that disconnect between that intent and action, and really be using behavioral science to kind of test out experiments. So we're working with bigger businesses who are you know, experiencing this, and over a 6-week period, we're testing out real life, in-store, online, with consumers to really be able to understand what are the nudges and how they're able to kind of adopt or not adopt, and what's working and what's perhaps not working. And we're really sort of committed to sharing these findings in an open source way. We have a playbook that we have available on our website that allows for those successes and failures to be shared, what's kind of worked and how you can then adopt this into your business. And the idea of making sure that it's something that is scalable. So we're committed to that as well too. Not all businesses obviously have this capacity perhaps, or even the resources. So how can we sort of, again, work to kind of bridge that gap? And we are also, really wanting to kind of drive that market application, again, sort of within a real world environment, so that it doesn't sort of just sit in a little bit of a vacuum, but this is something that's tangible and really practical. And finally, this is just an example of one of the experiments that we've run. So we worked with COS, who is a clothing retailer, specifically who was interested in encouraging Gen Z to think about resale and adopting resale. So we tested out a couple of messages with them. Our hypothesis was, including a behavioral intervention around messaging would potentially change the way that Gen Z would take part in resale, specifically with COS. And so we ran 4 TikTok ads, all with different messaging, testing, value, status, and community in terms of the way that the messages stood. So we had secure your next favorite piece, uncover coveted pieces, and join the resale revolution today. And we found that actually the community piece was the one that was most kind of resonated the most. And this intervention was kind of an interesting finding. And I think, again, tying it back to a local perspective and sort of seeing things from a local standpoint is, there is still that interest and wanting and need perhaps to want to feel kind of connected back to a community. And that even sort of in running something virtually was definitely a finding that we had. So this was kind of a really interesting way to really be able to dive and deeper into this. And with these messages and, with the outcomes of everything that we had, again, we shared it in our playbook, and also with an opportunity to be able to use this in your own business and how you could kind of test out different messages and different variations that could potentially work. And of course, providing also a toolkit for businesses to walk through and be able to apply this in their own real world environment. So with that, I want to thank you all. Thank you all for your attention, and I will pass it back over to Nadine.
Thanks, Tara. Very also insightful presentation, and I like to see the commonalities between your presentation and Serena on how you're bringing in the different segments of the ecosystem together to work towards circularity, and also the emphasis on the role of the community and the most vulnerable as well resonated well with me, and especially what you said, Tara, on offering a choice. And I think choice is a powerful tool, because if you have a choice, you can then make a better decision. And I think this is really great. So now I would like to open the floor to our participant, and I would like to pop in a question here, and I would like to get your insight on. We have a question for you on what do you think are the biggest barriers to scaling e-commerce and circular economy models for small businesses? So if you could share with us, is it the lack of consumer awareness and demand? Is it the high costs? Are these the gaps in the policies and the government incentives, or the challenges in digital integration and payment solutions? So I'm just going to give it a minute, and then maybe I could ask Serena and Tara if you'd like to reflect on these answers. So let's see if we have a winner. So I see high costs and limited financial options. And then, yeah, I think it's winning. Great. Yeah, would you, Serena, would you like to reflect a little bit on the barriers? One, maybe from the perspective of Milan, what you saw in the process were the barriers for you when you kickstarted the process on circular economy projects, and what you see and what you hear from the businesses that you work with, and also from the perspective of the city, what you have established so far and what have been the limitations as well.
Okay. As I said before, I think to enabling areas we identified some way to overcome the barriers. So for our point of view, from stakeholders and businesses analysis and so on, important. Rules are important because they can standardize the behavior also and the rules for SMEs. Be part of a community, not to be alone is a challenge. Also to be part of a bigger plan and have a common pathway is important. And difficulties are on the economic side, yes, because they're high cost, and these are kind of businesses, they have a low income in general, and also are inclusive, and they have some difficulties, and they are perhaps not so scalable, no? They are linked to the neighborhood, linked to condition of the urban, and you cannot do the same everywhere, like a platform, or it depends. And another barrier in Milan, but especially also in other cities with costs that are high, are the spaces, because we have it's difficult for small businesses with no real income to remain in the center of the city. And so in our case, for example, we are trying to have agreements with the real estate developer to have the ground floor spaces for commercial activities. Commercial, but not every commercial activities, but the kinds of activities that are the proximity, that are defined in the proximity economy. So the new artisans, manufacturers, new creative industries, young people, and so on. And we are working with the developer to have affordable spaces in these areas. I think these are the main difficulties, and also something of that depends on culture, because perhaps also we have to change the way in which we refer to these technical concepts that are circular economy principles. Perhaps we saw that fashion and design are emotions, so perhaps also the words we use, we have to change the way to say things, and now we use the pre-loved. You don't say second-hand, but pre-loved, and is a way just to have not the barrier typical words, but something that is emotional, that is encouraging this new kind of type of consume.
Yeah, I agree. I think finding a common language always brings partners together. It makes collaboration stronger. And Tara, what do you think are the biggest challenges in making e-commerce more accessible and desirable, both for the consumers and the SMEs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Serena touched on a lot of good points there. And I think, again, from an individual angle, there is certain, and from a consumer angle, there's certainly sometimes just lack of knowledge and awareness of what it is. So again, that number that I shared of 2 in 5 is, while we're sort of seeing a trend upward, it's not quite there in terms of, the awareness piece. And sometimes it's something as simple as, making it, again, something that's easy and available to you. So if you live in a place that doesn't necessarily have a repair shop, it's going to be more difficult to kind of go and find that. So we are seeing that, businesses are also looking to adopt these models to bridge that gap. So perhaps they, have a return scheme that's a little bit easier, a little bit more seamless of an experience to kind of avoid that, those obstacles. So in the first instance, I think from a business perspective, some of the things mentioned, so in terms of, basically, education and upskilling, and really what are the steps to really be able to expand your business into adopting a circular model. So maybe you're a bicycle shop and you sell bikes, but you want to sort of incorporate rental, but you perhaps don't know how to do that. So something like the community piece is, really key, and being able to kind of have those learnings and share those learnings is super critical. And of course, the government support, which we're seeing a little bit more, and this is something, across the research that we've done, we're seeing a little bit of that happening, but always a little bit more of that support is necessary from businesses as well too, from a government standpoint. And so that's, I think, something that, as trend is moving, is definitely also being adapting to. And, again, an opportunity to really kind of build that capacity as well as sort of support is just more and more critical to help bridge that gap.
Yeah, thank you, Serena. And I am looking at you, sorry, Tara. I'm looking at you, Serena, that you've touched on the importance of the skills and also making sure that you're taking use of the local skills that exist in the economy and try to bring it forward into the circularity transition. So maybe my question to you here is, how do you make sure that there's workforce readiness to this transition? And what policies or what already programs are existing that is leveraging these skills and increasing the readiness of the workforce?
And I choose just one pilot project that is in this sense, because the one I presented, the last one was a cube that is just to reinforce skills for tailor shop. That is one of the main one of the aspects, and so we support projects that are helping young people to or not young people. It depends on skills, to have the new skills on this. And it's a way, because perhaps Milan is known because of the universities and the PhDs and so on, all the innovation, but we are now valorizing the artisanal manufacturer that is our tradition in a way. It is an identity characteristic of the city, and also to have new way of doing something that is with the innovation, with digital aspects. And so we are supporting activities that can help and teach, and workshops and laboratories, and something that is with that answer to the needs of this kind of traditional activities, reviewed in a certain way, in an innovative way, because young people doesn't want to do only the wood or other things, but they have a digital approach with something innovative. And we have courses on this, and also the universities are preparing new kind of on the green jobs, to have this kind of green jobs. So new kinds of matters that they can have. Or the other thing is to have young people which are skilled on circular economy, that could be rented to small businesses, just to improve new way to do something, or just to help them to make the transition. Also on the digital product passport, or other needs requested by the new rules of European Commission.
Thank you, Serena. And Tara, what have been the lessons learned from running the projects and from the labs to the various collaborations that you presented just earlier? If you could, share with us a little bit the learnings from leading e-commerce businesses that have successfully were able to scale and make use of the tools that they benefited from Visa.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we are sometimes, blessed and cursed to be in a bubble in terms of the expertise and the excitement and interest we have specifically within the circular economy. And ultimately, when we're working with businesses, it's about the priorities of the businesses themselves. And working through that buy-in is sometimes a little bit of a challenge. When we have businesses who are interested and come to us and want to, scale and really mainstream their circular efforts internally, as well as externally, that is something that kind of sometimes comes against other priorities of the business. But, we know very well and good that this is the trend and this is the future, and this is obviously more of this demand is coming in. So the lesson is certainly kind of learning to understand and pitch ultimately how this, specifically adopting a circular business model is not only beneficial to the planet, but it's beneficial to your bottom line, it's beneficial to what your consumers want. And there's a lot of these kind of conversations that we're also sort of driving forward. Across the lab, for instance, when we're businesses, what are the benefits for the business, perhaps to people who, are a little bit, reticent, and stakeholders who may not necessarily see that direct connection.
Yes, thank you, Tara. And Serena, if the small businesses want to adopt the circular economy approach or models and transition towards that, there's still some policy shifts that are needed to accompany this shift from the traditional economy to a more circular economy. So my question to you here is, and maybe this is the question that would help us wrap up a little bit this conversation, is looking forward, what type of models do we need to bring in better collaborations or the policy changes that need to happen now to accelerate this change and bring in more partners and enable better businesses to become more circular and be part of this transition? What have been, maybe reflecting on what's at hand now, what have been effective and what needs to change now to accelerate this change?
One thing is a part of awareness and collaboration from the city. We realize that many initiatives are undergoing and there are many practices in the city. So it's something that is not new. We have to valorize and promote and try to make a network and kind of lobbies. And also we had some difficulties at political level because of to understand it, to have in our political address this kind of attention. Also on the urban, or also on the urban and the economy level, because more of the investment is done on the environmental side, but perhaps it's important also to valorize the issues on the economic side, because a new way for new kinds of businesses and new good jobs. And this is also, we have to emphasize these kind of aspects that are a kind of new economy, a kind of leverage the urban economy, and not only it's an environmental aspects. And the other things that we have a great respondents from cities are all the ONGs and the third sectors and associations and so on, because they know that it's very important on the social aspects, on the inclusiveness, on the ethical values, on good jobs, and also in a way to change the consumer's behavior. Perhaps these are the things we can leverage on. And the many initiatives that are going in the cities, they need perhaps a common pathway, and this is maybe the sense of our plan, because we have now we have some grants, yes, we have some funds, but this is not the big part of the plan. The big part of the plan was the construction of something that is that has been constructed with the city, with the association associations, the enterprises, and they are interested also with different scales because there are like of bubbles. The commercials, the artisans, the big brands, and perhaps this is a way to enlarge or to make possible some kind of network, some kind of relationship that are not in place. For example, in the big brands in Milan are important for the fashion show, and the ones we cannot say we cannot define rules for this kind of shows. This is very difficult, and we cannot say to Gucci we can only say something about the city, but we cannot have rules to say not kind of. But it's important to say, okay, if you do a fashion show and you use tonals of I don't know, carpets and that you throw away, you know that there are many associations and really small enterprises, micro enterprises in the cities that can come and take back this kind of goods that you use just for 5 minutes. Okay, you have your show, it's okay, but it's important also that we can use again, reuse, recycle, upcycle so we are pivot, we are making this kind of connection, put together actors that generally have no contact at all.
Yeah, and if I can add to that as well too, I think absolutely it's, you know, it's an ecosystem change, right? And it's about bringing in different partners and connectors to really make, you know, the changes. This is not something that's going to be the responsibility of one group or one organization, but you know, it's essentially governments, it's consumers, it's businesses, it's, you know, essentially all these people who need to come together to help sort of push this forward. And you know, our role as Visa, we can kind of bring these groups together through our networks and through our ecosystem to really help kind of facilitate those relationships, as Serena is mentioning. So yeah, absolutely, I would agree on that point of, you know, it is kind of a whole ecosystem play, and ultimately removing that friction amongst the different actors, and that's going to be key to the success of this moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Tara. I think that leveraging the different networks and synergy will keep this pushing forward. And Serena, I have one last question for you because we just received it from one of the participants when you started talking about the shows and how you're distributing the waste. And it's basically on the waste collection, about the partnerships that the city has put in place to maybe revalorize the waste that's being produced from these shows. So what type of linkages were built? We have a question from Abha about this. What type of linkages were built, and how did the city authorities play a role in making these linkages happen? You're on mute, but if you could unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. We have rules for urban waste, and urban waste is everything that is waste in the city, not coming from production, the big production outside the city. So in this case, we collect. We have municipal agencies that collect textile in a separate way. You have some like bins for textile for people, and also for the shops and so on. And now we have an experimental agreement to collect inside the big shops. Inside the big shops, people can go and throw textile in that. Not always buying something that was not so good, because some brands has this kind of you give back a good and then you buy another one. But in this case, it's another way to collect and to help people to collect textile in a separate way, because they are waste, and then they have the waste process and all the authorized services that can use this. Also in where you shop, where people used to have shops. So this is the municipal collectors of waste that is has agreements with the shops, not the producers that are outside the city, because the producers have another kind of model to collect waste. And that is not dependent from the city, from the municipality.
Yeah. Yes, thanks, Sid. And I hope that answers your question, Apha. And last question for you, Tara, coming in to close up, is about any specific examples that you could provide about testing and piloting with digital payments in the context of circularity. If you could share with us maybe one example, and then we could wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we recently have been running a pilot program actually in the city of Aarhus in Denmark, which is sort of a pilot specifically on reverse vending and the use of reusable cups. So people would kind of take a cup, use it, and when they returned it, the process is typically a little bit cumbersome. If you've never done this before, it may take you a couple of days to get your payments back and kind of your cash back. But instead, we're piloting and testing with a Visa solution called Visa Direct, where essentially money can kind of come back directly to a person's card, so they tap and immediately get the payout, which I think is something that we've seen to be successful within this pilot, considering it's has increased in terms of people actually using it. We placed it sort of in higher traffic areas to sort of ease that opportunity and make it sort of, again, easier for people to use it and make it more desirable from a payments perspective. And then we also noticed it kind of using it in events. We did a couple of piloting tests there. We had one cup that was reused 33 times, which, may be a little bit alarming if you're a germaphobe, but I've been told they've been cleaned very properly. But essentially, again, kind of keeping it in circularity and seeing the value of this is and how we can kind of bring in the actors from a payment side and really sort of make this process smooth, seamless, and secure will ultimately basically increase adoption. So we're really proud of that example as well too. So thank you for the question.
Yes, thanks, Tara. I think, yeah, that's an excellent example because I also witnessed it when I was in one of the concerts and I saw that it was very much adopted. So that's a great example. Thanks. So with this, I would like to thank you again, Tara and Serena, for being with us today and sharing with us all the knowledge and about the projects and the policies in Milan, and also all the partnerships happening in Visa and how you're supporting a better circular and growth for small businesses. I would also like to thank all our participants who stayed with us for the last hour. So, but watch out the website. We will be sharing the material, the recording, and the brief of the session in a few weeks. So please watch out for our website and the announcement of our next session, which will be on renaturing cities. So this is definitely a topic that everybody likes to hear about. So please don't miss it out. It will be on May 15th. And with that, I would like to thank you all for your time and wish you a very lovely day, evening, whatever you are. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.